if you're glad to be in church tonight, would you say amen? Amen. Hard to believe it's Saturday night. This week is just gone, just like that. But oh, haven't we had a good revival? Amen. We've heard incredible preaching and wonderful singing, and the presence of God has been very rich and very... I'm grateful, so grateful. Stand with me and let's pray to begin this service. Let's ask God to move among us again tonight. Thank you for your dedication. I know Saturday night can seem a little tough for some, especially, on the getting ready for Sunday morning. But thank you for being in the Lord's house tonight. Let's pray together. God, I thank you so much for everything that you are doing for us. You have been so good to us this week. You've spoken to our hearts. You've anointed our workers with your divine presence. You've ministered to us. God, the service last night was just extraordinary as you walked among us. Oh, God, do it again tonight, I pray. Speak to our hearts and help us and accomplish your perfect will in our hearts and in the heart of our church. Touch us tonight, I pray, for Jesus' sake. We're trusting you to help us, Lord. We're depending on you. In Jesus' name I pray, and all God's people said, amen. Take your songbooks. Brother Benjamin's coming to lead us in the singing. Let's all lift our voices and sing together.
Start out by singing the chorus tonight. This world never gave me the peace that I have. Trust you know this chorus. Let's sing it together tonight. This world never gave me the peace that I have. I just couldn't find it out there. But sweeter by far is the love of my Lord, and to feel his cleansing power. He took all my heartache, gave me joy I can't know. His sweet hallowed presence makes my sad heart to glow. This world never gave me the peace that I have. I just couldn't find it out there. Looks like maybe that's a new one for some of you. Let's try it again. This world never gave me the peace that I have. I just couldn't find it out there. But sweeter by far is the love of my Lord, and to feel his cleansing power. He took all the heartache, gave me joy I can know. Took all my heartache, gave me joy I can know. Sweet hallowed presence makes my sad heart to glow. Makes my sad heart to glow. This world never gave me the peace that I have. I just couldn't find it out there. Well, I searched for him, and I knew not what I searched for. I longed for him, and I knew not what I longed for. Then I met Jesus. I knew that I would search no more. He filled that longing down in my soul. When I searched for him, and I knew not what I searched for. I longed for him, and I knew not what I longed for. Then I met Jesus. I knew that I would search no more. He filled that longing down 348. Shackled by a heavy burden, neath a load of guilt and shame. Then the hand of Jesus touched me, and now I am no longer the same. Oh, he touched me. Oh, he touched me. And oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole. Since I met this blessed Savior, since he cleansed and made me whole, I will never cease to praise him. I shall live while eternity rolls. He touched me. Oh, he touched me. And oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole. You may be seated. Aren't you thankful he touched you tonight? I'm so thankful that his hands reached down to where I was and touched me and brought me out of that deep miry clay. And now I'm satisfied in him. Let's turn over to 383. 383, satisfied. Hallelujah, I have found him, whom my soul so long has craved. Let's sing this together tonight. All my life long I had panted for a drink from some cool spring that I hoped would quench the burning of the thirst I felt within. Oh, hallelujah, I have found him, whom my soul so long has craved. Jesus satisfies my longings, 383 Thank you for your good seat.
Hey, you learned a new course tonight too, didn't you? Amen. It's our very perceptive song leader. He's looking out across the crowd and he realizes 90% of you didn't know it. But you learned it. Great job, bro. I hadn't heard that one in a long, long time. I want us to look to the Lord in prayer tonight, and I have several prayer requests that I need to share with you. First of all, I regret to tell you that unless God works a miracle, the prognosis for Bob Bedford is just not good at all. And Bob's been our friend. His mom, Nell, was a long-time member of our church. And this family's been part of Beech Grove for a long time. And I want us to pray for their family tonight. We're carrying you tonight, Linda. I want you to know that. We're carrying your family and praying that God will be with you and Tom and the rest of the family. And I just want us to earnestly pray tonight for this situation. And then Everett and Latilla have a friend named Brad. Did I get the name right? Okay. All right. That needs a touch from the Lord. Let's remember him tonight as we pray. The visiting lady that we had last night from she lives south of Dayton, about 3 hours, and she had called me yesterday afternoon, and Brother J. Stephen Manley had suggested that she visit our revival. She was coming to Indianapolis for medical treatment, and she said, I really feel like I need to be in church. And then she called back and said, I think I'm going to have to go right to the hospital. She changed her mind, and she came to church last night. But unfortunately, while she was here, she had a medical episode. And so Kelly called an ambulance, and they took her to the hospital. And Donnie Parks drove her vehicle, and I followed along in my vehicle. And Amy's been in touch with this lady since last night. She's out of the hospital now, but we don't really know this lady, but the Lord knows her need and her situation. And would you pray for her tonight that God would help her? And also the Coward family is very sick. There are several people who have gotten the bug, and so they're not feeling well at all. Vern is very, very sick, and other members of the Coward family are very sick. Please pray for them tonight that God would help them. Please pray for my Uncle Junior. His prognosis is not good at all, and he needs the Lord, and I would appreciate it so much if you would pray for him tonight. Is there anyone else that has a prayer request that you would like to mention? Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, let's pray for his Aunt Rachel. Anyone else? What did I? Your grandson Jesse. Let's pray for Jesse tonight, that God will help him. Sister Ruby, let's pray for Sister Ruby tonight. We have so missed her. Anyone else, Brother Bill? Okay, let's pray for this lady tonight, that God would help her. Anyone else? I'm sure we all have unspoken requests. God sees every need. Would you stand with me tonight? And let's lift our voices and pray together. Brother Dennis Joslin, would you come and lead us? Let's all lift our voices with his, and let's just ask God to intervene in every situation tonight. God is able. Let's pray together.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with humble hearts. We're so grateful to you for your goodness. We're so thankful to you for the manifestation of your presence, for the truth of your word that we've been enjoying this week. We know of no other way that we would rather go than to walk the way of Jesus and to walk with him. And we thank you for that and for the Spirit of God and the anointing that's there. We come before you, Lord, anticipating a move in our midst one more time, that the truth will be presented and that we'll walk in the light. As we're gathered here, also our hearts are heavy. There's many who are unable to be here for various reasons and numerous requests. We pray, dear Lord, that you would undertake. We bring them before you just now, and we pray for each one. Lord, we pray especially this evening for for the family of Bob Bedford. You know that these are difficult times. You know that this is one of those times when it seems like there's no words, and it seems like it's just an empty time, and yet there's a fullness that's there through the Spirit. And we pray that your arms of love will go to them and wrap yourself up and intertwine yourself in the family and witness to them and comfort them in this time, and we'll praise you for what you do. We pray for this lady that visited who had a need. We don't know her name. We don't know her circumstances. We don't know anything about her really, but for some reason you led her to this church, and you are able to meet her need, and we pray that you would go to her and that you would be sufficient for the need that she has. Remember Brad, this friend of the Osbornes, and the needs that are there. We pray, dear Lord, for the Coward family. They love the church, and they're enjoying the times that they've had, and there's been a melding time together with them, but now the physical affliction is upon most of the family, and we pray that you would be with them and help them. And remember Vern, as he's still recovering somewhat from his heart surgery, and so it's a little more crucial for him, but we pray, oh God, that your hand of sufficiency would be with them and their family this evening. Lord, there are others who are named, the relative of Brother Bates. We pray for him this evening. Names that were mentioned from the congregation, that we know not the circumstances, but you know, and those that are carrying those burdens, lift their burden and help them to lift in the load in these cases, and we'll praise you for it. We've probably forgotten some, but we lift them to you. And we know, God, that you're sufficient. And we pray your sufficiency for each one, and that you would manifest yourself to them in a very real way. Now, one more time this evening, we want to tell you once again, we love you, we appreciate you. We're so thankful for your word. We're so thankful for the preaching and the singing and the encouragement, for the digging around, for the new light. And we ask that, oh God, you'll speak to hearts this evening, whatever the need may be. And while we're concerned about all of these physical needs, we hold the needs of the human heart up as the most important, and that you would begin even now to work on whatever the need might be. Be an encouragement to us. Anoint the speaker of the hour. Be with the singers in every part of the service. We pray your name would be lifted up and glorified, and we'll praise you for all that you do. In Jesus' precious name we ask it. Amen.
Children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Jesus loves little children, all the children of the world. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything. More than anything, He wants them to know He'd rather die than let them
knows their pain, he knows their shame, and he cries with those who cry.
He won't give up or walk away like other people do.
'Cause God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything. More than anything, he wants them to know he'd rather die than let them go. God loves people more than anything.
God loves the wounded who've fallen into sin.
He reaches down and he pulls them out and he cleans them up again.
And he will heal the broken heart who's given up on love.
'Cause God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything. More than anything, he wants them to know he'd rather die than let them go. God loves people more than anything. More than anything, he wants them to know he'd rather die than let them go. God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything. Yes, God loves people more than anything. More than any God loves people more than anything. Aren't you glad tonight? Oh, God loves people more than anything. More than anything, he wants them to know he'd rather die than let them go. God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything. God loves people more than anything.
Oh, thank the Lord. What a powerful lyric. He'd rather die than let them go. Hallelujah. Isn't that wonderful to know? He loves people so much, he'd rather die than let them go. Wow, that was powerful. Girls, thank you very, very much. Appreciated it. Pastor Don, Papa Don, appreciated it very much. Papa Don. Let me tell you what happened tonight. The youngest, I don't know, did she go to sleep? Oh, she's somewhere out there. She's starting to kind of take to me. And there was a dear missionary statesman, old missionary statesman, that lived in Hope Sound that those two older girls really liked. And what did they call him? Papa Glenn? Glenn Rife, right? Papa. And Cambria noticed that Emmeline was starting to cozy up to me, and Emmeline had never met. He passed away not too long ago, and or some time ago, I guess now. And Cambria was like, you know, he's like Papa Glenn. And so Jaylene is telling me this story, and I said, let me see. Brother Ralph was, what, in his early 70s? No, he's about 88. And Smart Mouth over there coined the phrase, because he is so brilliant, Papa Don. Sounds like a pizza joint, doesn't it? Oh, I am so much enjoying this wonderful family. Hey, can we take a moment and welcome our online audience? We're so glad you're with us tonight. And we have visitors with us again tonight. We want you to know we are glad you're here. Jeff and Karen, my friends, we're glad you're with us tonight. Thanks for coming. And I know we did this last night, but it was the night before the birthday. And not all of you were in there. And Curtis is halfway to 50 today. He's 25 years old. Isn't that something? Can we sing happy birthday to Curtis? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. God bless you. Happy birthday to you. Curtis, we love you very much. Happy birthday. Now, our ushers are coming at this time. Let me just remind you of our services tomorrow, 10:45 morning worship. Then the final service of this revival will be at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. I hope you'll plan to join us. And I want to thank you for your giving. I don't know yet how much you have given, but I know that you will do the very best that you can. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I do believe that God will reward you for your faithfulness in giving. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Brother Roger, would you pray for the offering?
Father God, we are so thankful tonight that you love people.
Yes, Jesus.
We're one of those people, oh God. You love us so much that you wouldn't let us go. We're thankful for that tonight. Bless this offering in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Sing this verse. I yielded myself to his tender embrace, and faith taking hold of the word aren't you glad God can give us peace in the midst of a world that's so messed up? It's so much turmoil and so much heartache, but God can give us peace in our souls, and we can rest in Him. Thank the Lord. Thank you for the offering. Thank you for that very beautiful offertory. I have so much enjoyed, all kidding aside, and I hope you know that I was joking when I called him a smart mouth, but we've become friends, and he's a lot of fun, and we've had such good fellowship with Brother and Sister Jones, and I have enjoyed it more than I can tell you, entertaining them each night, and I, you know, you never know when you call evangelists if they're going to gel. You know what I'm saying? Tell you a quick funny story. Dad preached revival for J.D. Stafford one year over at Southport, and the song evangelists were a wonderful family that J.D. Stafford had never had. And that the very first night of revival, and those of you that remember Brother Stafford's style, the church basically watched him. And if he was engaged in the service, they were engaged, but if he wasn't, they weren't. And the song evangelist was leading a song they didn't know. That's funny. Congregational song, first song of the revival. Brother Stafford jumped up and walked by the song evangelist and said, "They don't know that one, old pal, pick another one." And the song evangelist turned and looked at him and said, "Well, it's time they learn it." Not good. And all week long, it was just tough sledding. Sunday morning, they finally had a real breakthrough, but it was just tough. And so you never know, when you call an evangelist and song evangelist, especially people that have never been here. I think this is your first time to be with us, isn't it, Brother Jones? And all these years, and Benjamin and Jillian, maybe with the choir, Penview Choir years ago. But hasn't God used both of them incredibly so? And they've just minded the Lord, and they've both had the anointing of the Holy Spirit, and I am so grateful. So God bless the McDowells as they sing for us, and then God bless Brother Jones as he preaches to us tonight.
One of my favorite verses in Scripture is in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men can't count slackness, but is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. That can apply, and in many respects in my situation as Director of Missions there in Hope Sound for Hope International Missions, I think a lot of that has broad and around the world, and that's true, and praise God for that. But that also means right here in Beech Grove, Indiana, or right there in Hope Sound, or wherever we might be, God is not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. And I just love him for that whosoever will aspect of who he is. You don't have to reach some sort of a level of achievement or check off certain boxes before finally you can come to him. No, anybody in any condition and in any stage of life, because God loves people, whosoever will may come to him.
Whosoever will may come to Jesus. Whosoever will may come. That's the promise he gave us when he died to save us. That whosoever will may come.
Oh, my Jesus is a loving Savior who gave up his life for me, that forever and ever man could be set free, that
whosoever will
may come. its mother is a love that I can understand. But the love of my Savior is so vast yet oh so real that whosoever may come, whosoever will may come to Jesus, whosoever will may come. That's the promise He gave us when He died to save us, that whosoever will may come. That's the promise He gave us when He died to save us, that whosoever will may
Amen. Thank you, Brother and Sister McDowell. Thank you for following the leadership of the Holy Spirit as you have ministered to us night after night. And I am grateful. Appreciate the music, everything. And I'm delighted to be a part of just sharing these days with you. You have been a blessing to Sandy and me. Thank you so much for all that you have provided. Great room and just lovely fellowship that we have enjoyed. So thank you for everything. I know that the Holy Spirit, and I'm not really sure how to term this, but the Holy Spirit has different tones, different moods, if you please, different intensities on various nights as we approach service. Tonight, I wish there was a way that from my heart to you, I could develop or help to you to understand what seems to be the tone of the Spirit for this evening. This is not my text, but it would at least help you to catch a bit of how God wants us to approach tonight. Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Now, if you could catch that tone and move it to our discussion for tonight on holy rest, I think you would be able to understand the beauty of what God invites us to. I know that when we talk about entire sanctification or holiness, some people's barriers go up. Some have heard it preached in a way that couldn't be lived. And some have heard it preached in such demanding tones or forceful tones that they have withdrawn from it somewhat. I wish you could just hear the Father this evening as he welcomes you to rest in a different dimension. I'm reading tonight from the book of Hebrews, chapter 4, and starting at verse 9. And actually, I am bouncing right on in, skipping parts that perhaps should have been developed here for this, but I'm coming directly to Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 9. And in this verse, God is going to talk to us about a rest. There is a rest that we know when we come to Jesus. And remember, Jesus said, "Come unto me and I will give you rest." Rest from guilt, rest from the turmoil of sin's control. But there's another rest that God invites us to, the rest of ceasing from our own labors. And then finally, there's the rest of heaven that God is preparing for us. This is the middle one that I'm going to particularly talk to you tonight about, though verse 9 could refer to eternal rest as well. But verse 9, there remaineth therefore a rest to the people of God. For he that entered into his rest, he also hath ceased from his own works, as God did from his. Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. So it's looking back to the Israelites and their unbelief in the wilderness. Let's bow our heads for just a moment. Father, please enable us to hear your heart tonight as you speak gently to our very beings, innermost beings. In Jesus' name, amen. So once more, salvation brings glorious new life, and I thank God for it. There is nothing about salvation that should be diminished or decried or set on a low plane. God brings peace, and I thank the Lord for peace in my heart. Peace from guilt, reconciled to God, made one with him, atonement, at-one-ment, rest from guilt, rest from sins that have been held against me. And just the same as, in a sense, one could step out of court where the whole issue has been thrown out. We come into the throne room and we find peace in the reconciliation that God offers, and that is rest. Rest from the sins, the guilt of sins committed. But in a believer's life comes times very often of wrestling, an inner sense of defilement, an inner stain, an inner taint, and something different from the unrest of guilt, but the unrest of an inner deficiency, an inner realization, the holy God who has brought me into his family, when he looks inside, something is not in tune with him. I love him. I have chosen him. He has rescued me, but something's not tuned to him somehow. I'm going to give you first of all 3 ways that the Bible seems to talk to us about that kind of unrest. And then I'm going to come back and revisit them and just sort of expand what God offers, all right? So first of all, there is the unrest of a divided heart. Paul wrote to the Thessalonians, and he says essentially, something's lacking in your faith. Isn't that interesting? They're believers, and he says something is lacking in your faith. Well, faith can often be understood as not just the belief that I direct God's way, but faith can be expressed in faithfulness. And Paul is writing to these Thessalonian believers and says, something is lacking at the core of your faithfulness. Okay? We're going to process some of this. To the Hebrews, in the chapter we have just read, there is a warning that there is something within them that is a go-back spirit. There's something that he warns them, be careful of a heart of unbelief that would lead you back to where you came from. Interestingly, while we're on this concept of a divided heart, the unrest of a divided heart, in the Old Testament, God made covenant with the children of Israel. only for them to discover that they could not keep covenant on their own. God could keep covenant, but they were covenant breakers. And so God is developing this concept. I need to build something inside of you till I write my law within you. We come to the prophets in the Old Testament. And the prophet tells backslidden Israel, you've got a prostituting spirit. You've got a spirit within you that is not faithful. Something is divided here. And so when we come to the psalmist prays, oh God, create in me a clean heart and renew in me a right spirit. The word right means steadfast. Renew a steady spirit in me. Give me rest from a divided heart that is unfaithful at its core. So here we recognize the unrest of this tainted spirit that is basically marked by unfaithfulness, just a proneness to not keep covenant. In contrast, God is a covenant-keeping God. The holy God is a faithful God. What an incredible concept. Secondly, this unrest in the scripture shows itself in a self-absorbed heart, the unrest of being self-absorbed. Now, I think some people at the first glance at that would think that's the place, well, you know, you're not worried about everybody else. It's all about you, so it's the easiest way to go. But God never made you to be self-absorbed. You were not created to live turned inward. Your highest delight and fulfillment, the rest of your spirit will never be found while it is all turned inward for you, because you will never be satisfied trying to satisfy you. I read about a lady. She was hemmed in on the north and the south and the east and the west by herself. That's not a fun place to live. You think that's restful? It's a long, long, long ways from restful. There's an inward curvature that we're born with. Something is to be my way. It's about me. It's about my position. A lot of times we have just talked about pride, simply. That ugly taint of sin that remains in the heart of a believer. I'll do it my way is the mark of sin. I'll be the master of my own life is the mark of sin. And some of that underlying nature, spirit, remains broken, yes, in the heart of the believer, but something's still there, the principle of me. Tainted by my inner self-will, I'm turned inward. And the God I have chosen to love is turned outward. And something about my spirit doesn't match his. Okay? The unrest of a self-absorbed heart. And finally, number 3, the unrest of inner corruption. There's an awareness that in the presence of God, there is inner defilement in my being, a nature that is not right. Like a computer system that has some kind of a bad file somewhere, and there's this glitch every once in a while. There's something within me that does not flow correctly. And again, the psalmist said, I was shapen in iniquity. The word means crookedness. I was shapen, twisted. Something in my innermost being. I wasn't born, I was not an illegitimate child. It's not what he's saying. He's not saying I was born an illegitimate child. He's simply saying I was shapen, my innermost being. The core of my being is twisted. There's a crookedness, a prone to evil, a prone to wander, an affinity to evil. I resonate to crookedness. And you want, Lord, you want truth in my inward parts, but I find a corrupt spring that I cannot seem to cleanse on my own. Something isn't clean at my core. Something is twisted and crooked. And you, God, you're true and trustworthy. And something's wrong down here. My sins have been forgiven, and I know that. But when I come into your presence, and when pressure is on, I recognize that somewhere, at some level within me, something does not match who you are. Okay? So those are the ways the scripture seems to look at the unrest of the heart that is still marked by a nature unlike Christ. So I'm going to circle back and just look at those again. I hope you can follow me. The first one we talked about was the unrest of a divided heart. So I'm going to tell you this evening that God can give you rest from that kind of inner civil war, that inner brokenness, until there's a stability to your walk. You look at Peter in the scriptures and watch him before Pentecost and then watch his life after. Afterwards, he's still a bit impetuous. He's still Peter. But there's a stability to his walk that was not there before the infilling of the Spirit. We had a dear lady come to us from the Presbyterian Church in Ontario, when I pastored in Ontario. So basically, let me tell you the story really quickly. I did a Bible study at my parents' home. A fellow came to the Bible study and afterwards said, "Would you come to the car with me?" I went to the car and he wanted to get saved. Well, that was pretty exciting stuff. And eventually he wanted to be baptized, he, his wife, and he wanted me to baptize the children. And I said, okay, but I need to come and talk to them. I need to know that your wife knows that she was a church lady, but I need to know that she knows Jesus. And we're not going to just do the baptism without leading the children to Jesus. Well, these kind of things. Well, he said, I know my wife does. And I sat down with that family. That was one of those special moments. And I said to Mrs. Colvin, I said, Jean, do you know that Jesus saves you? Oh, she said, I know he does. And I thought, well, you can't get much more Wesleyan than that, Presbyterian or not. And they had the children primed and ready, teens, and I knelt with one. The dad knelt with the older boy. The mom knelt with the younger girl. And I prayed out loud with the one boy so that they would know how to pray with the other ones. That was a beautiful time. And then baptized. So let me fast forward now. I have been preaching to Jean for some time, now 4 or 5 years. They've come to our church. And she's heard kind of preaching I'm sharing with you this evening. But God just works on his own time, And eventually she was at camp meeting. She had cancer. This is going to be her last camp meeting before she slips into heaven. And interestingly, the preaching was about the steps to entire sanctification. And she said, Lord, do you want me to seek this? And he said, I've been trying to tell you all day. And I thought, all day? I've been working at this for 4 years. But her heart, please, I understand the Holy Spirit works at his own time. And the beautiful part of it, she came to the altar, and without all of our kind of background and style, She just knelt there and, Presbyterian as she was, just did business with the Lord and made a full surrender of the unrest of her being. She went home and in a few weeks was in the hospital and never to come home again. But if you could have stepped into that room and recognized the awesome confirmation of an established soul, it was a beautiful thing. You know, just incredibly sick and about to cross the line of worlds, but the settledness was just a glorious thing. So I have Free Methodist background. I grew up in Southern Ontario, in the West Ontario Conference of the Free Methodist Church. One of the old Free Methodist bishops began to dig around in this whole business of rest from a divided heart. And as he works back through the church fathers and back into those days and years when some of the beginnings of what we understand in high church circles, some of their rituals, when some of those were being established and started. And as he worked with that, he said one of the great tragedies of the early church was that from the 2nd century on, the beautiful truth of cleansing was discolored by new philosophies and heresies invented by the church. So busy were churchmen digging channels for grace that they forgot the grace. But the channels that they were laying out were the channel of baptism and the channel of confirmation. Confirmation was for the believer who was moving towards an established relationship with the church or with God. It should have been with God. Actually, my Anglican friend in Ontario said to his priest, he was about to go to confirmation, and my Anglican friend, Brian, said to the priest, I really am not interested in being confirmed to the church. And his priest wisely said, if you understand this correctly, it is confirmation to Christ. So as this Free Methodist bishop began to work and grapple with some of the language that was used in creating in the first creation of confirmation rituals, he recognized, and the church world recognized, that the word confirmation was actually the point at which we would say entire sanctification was given to an individual. It was done with the laying on of hands and the Holy Spirit, with what they would understand the unction of the Holy Spirit to be poured out on this believer. And the only reason I'm telling you this is simply that they used the word confirmation. God wants to confirm you in himself. That's why Paul writes to the Thessalonians and prays that God would establish their hearts unblameable in holiness. Lord, I just pray, this could have been the kind of prayer Paul made. I pray that these who have already believed and been baptized, now I pray that the Holy Spirit would confirm them, establish them unblameable before you. So those early rituals in the early church, baptism and confirmation, supported the concept, the practice, the understanding of two works of grace, one that was reflected in baptism and another that was reflective of the Holy Spirit being poured out on an individual. St. Ambrose wrote, confirmation is a seal, a spiritual seal, remaining after baptism that perfection had be had. So just some of that beautiful part. Oh, my friends, I want to thank the Lord for the privilege, the glory of finding a confirming grace in Christ as a teenager. It has saved me from a whole lot of mess. When I told you, as a child, I gave my heart to Jesus. And as a teenager, I sought a clean heart, a pure heart. I don't know that I would be able to testify like some others that it meant to me pure love or something like that. I don't think I could even say that I sensed some of that. But God used it as a confirming, establishing, a settling grace in my heart. From the rest of a divided spirit, God brings to you and offers to you in that the rest of the civil war within, he offers you rest at a new level. Thank God. Not only does he offer that kind of rest from a divided heart, but he offers rest from this self-absorption. I don't know, I'm not even sure I know how to put this in words, because sometimes it's so subtle that you can't even, it's a little harder to put your finger on. But you begin to work through the New Testament, and after Pentecost, there's this zealousness for the gospel. They're not living as victims. Pressure may come on and persecution comes on. And it's not, oh, poor me, and this is just bad story. They moved to another town and start a new church. It's just, well, or at least spread the gospel. There's this beautiful outflowing. Instead of it being, well, poor us. We're in bad times, hard times. There's this sense of other-orientedness. There's a focus that has moved in a different direction. So different than when those disciples are on the road with Jesus. They get in the house and Jesus says, "So what were you talking about out there on the way?" Well, nobody wants to admit what they were talking about. They were trying to figure out who's going to be the greatest in Christ's kingdom. And so silence follows. And finally, one of them speaks up and says, "Who's greatest in the kingdom of God?" Doesn't say, which one of us will be greatest. They're not about to let on what all they've been saying, but which one will be greatest? And Jesus says, okay. Calls a child to him and says, this is how it starts. Forget about greatness in the kingdom. You don't even come into the kingdom without becoming a child, like a child. And whoever is greatest, whoever becomes like the child will be great in the kingdom. So there's something before Pentecost that is this wrangling place for position. That's not a comfortable place to be. You watch it happen. And if your spirit doesn't get tied in knots just watching it, I'm not sure what'll happen. This other-orientedness. Do you know the Trinity is absolutely other-oriented? The Father, this is some of where we've been this week. The Father said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased." The Son says, "I don't do anything but what I hear I don't say anything but what I hear my Father say. And I do what he wants." And then remember, Jesus said, when the Holy Spirit comes, he will point to me. He will remind you of what I've said. Each is pointing to the other. There's this other-orientedness right in the beautiful Trinity. And we talked on whichever night it was, Tuesday night, about God's own description of holiness. It is absolutely other-oriented. It is not self-absorbed, turned inward. Remember we talked about God being merciful. Well, merciful by its very nature is an expression of reaching. He is gracious, bending or stooping in kindness to an inferior. Awesome. He is long-suffering, slow to anger, delays his justice, waits so that the sinner can repent, takes long, slow breaths, if you please, abundant in goodness, abundant in truth, trustworthiness, forgiving iniquity. He's willing to lift, to bear, to carry our rebellion, creating a climate for forgiveness. That's a long ways from curved inward, all about me. It's a God who actually, Dr. Uri, from the word merciful in the Hebrew, understands that it's the word suggests a womb, the cherishing, nurturing, tender care of a womb for the fetus within it. And Uri said merciful essentially is a womb turned outward to offer its protection to someone else. God is not self-absorbed. Salvation breaks the control of that self-absorption. If you've ever watched a new believer get up from the altar or from wherever that may be, and there's suddenly a desire, I want my friend to get saved too. There's something that has been broken, but down underneath is the subtle curvature of this warp, of this absorption. I read an interesting story. This lady was asked to teach a Sunday school class. And she got a few weeks into it, and she hurt somebody's feelings in the process. And the pastor was out visiting, stopped at the home where this lady lived. She answered the door with tears in her eyes, and he said, "What's the trouble?" Well, she said, "I just got a petition from the class asking for a new teacher, asking that I step aside." And she said, "The trouble is I had just gotten my husband to agree to come to church. And if he were to, what would happen if he came now? He'd mop the aisle with the guys whose first name's on this list, you know." So she said, "What do I do?" Well, the pastor said, Can you go back next Sunday and pray for the woman who teaches your class in your place?" He said she burst into tears and said that would take a lot of grace. But that's what she did. She came back, sat on the third row, and Sunday after Sunday prayed for that teacher, that new teacher, as she taught. Well, one day, the pastor pulled into the driveway, the parking lot of the church, and somebody came and said, "Did you hear about Tom?" Tom was the husband that before would have mopped the aisle with one of those church guys. And the pastor went over to Tom and said, "Tom, what happened?" "Oh," he said, "you know that wife of mine. You remember what they did to her in that Sunday school class? Made me so angry, I was ready to kill them all. But every night before we went to sleep, she would kneel beside the bed and pray for them all. And while she prayed, I stewed. But while she was praying last night, I rolled out onto my knees and said, 'Honey, pray for me. I'm the one who needs it.' And beside the bed with my wife, I found God last night." That wouldn't have happened if that lady had been so self-absorbed she couldn't break loose from her own grief. The dynamic of other-orientedness. Thank God. Thank God for the blood of Jesus that can give you rest from yourself. And finally, we talked about earlier the unrest of twistedness, the unrest of corruption, of the crookedness within. There is a rest from that crookedness, that corruption. In the Hebrew epistle, the writer calls to these people and identifies to them that there is a serious drawback somewhere in your life, in your spirit, there's a serious drawback, the danger of going back, unsettled, sluggish in their grasp of truth. When they act like, when they're being told truth as children of God, and it's pretty plain, they act like illegitimate children, that the truths and belongings of the family aren't theirs. So when you hear truth from the Father, you act like it's not for you and you just ignore it. So you ought to be teaching. Instead of teaching, you've got to be taught over and over and over. You ought to be chewing beefsteak, but you have to be bottle fed over and over. This bent to rebellion, this bent to evil, there's this twisted defect. There's a moral limp within your spirit. And there's a doctor that can take care of that. And the book of Hebrews gives the doctor's credentials. God's credentials, the one who can save them not just from their sins, the sins they have committed, but save them from the corruption, save them to this uttermost, kind of like the heart verse, the theme verse of the book of Hebrews, and calls them to pursue this new level of rest. When he gets to the end, toward the end of his book, he prays that God would make them perfect. And it simply means he's praying that the God of peace would bring them to total repair. That may sound foreign, but to such complete preparation that they wouldn't live with this moral limp, this inner crookedness that they were born with, this inner thing that leaves them twisted, and life every once in a while rises, or at least something within rises out of a corrupted source. Now, you'll never have rest from poor judgment. Your brain will never get perfected in that level. And your judgment probably won't. Your intellect won't. It will not make you God. But you can find an unblameable place in the heart of God when he corrects the moral limp of your being and sets you at rest from all that lives in civil war, a corrupted core. There is an old song, I don't know that we've sung it where I'm from in quite some time, but the songwriter writes these words: "Dark the sin that soiled man's nature, long the distance that he fell, far removed from hope and heaven, near to deep despair and hell. But there was a fountain open, and the blood of God's own Son purifies the soul and reaches deeper than the stain had gone." Do you know what? I got some ink on my white shirt a few weeks ago. Put a pen in there that leaked ink right on the pocket. Well, no, like, how do you hide a black splotch on that? And that spot made my wife a little bit unrestful. There's a stain in the heart of mankind that leaves, I think when God looks at it, he longs to call us to the new rest in a new level. And my wife tried to get that stain out, but there's still a little black spot on the bottom of that pocket. So probably that white shirt gets moved from church days to something else. But God has a way of taking care of the stain at the innermost part of our beings. I can't tell you that my testimony has to be your testimony. I know that when Jesus did a work in my heart, I knew it was clean. I knew I'd been forgiven, but I knew that when Jesus cleansed my heart, the crookedness, the control center, whatever, it was clean, clean, clean. And I've thought, you know, I know that, you know, in every one of our lives, sin presents itself in perhaps a little bit different way, and at least in its outflowing. Very likely, if for me a clean heart was what I knew had happened, the biggest issue that would have found its blossom in my life was inner corruption. What kind of a defiled man would I be today had it not been for the cleansing of Jesus' blood? What bitterness would have arisen? What immoral propensity would have risen, and then maybe I'd have lost my way and it would have ruled my life. I don't know, but I just want to tell you this evening, there's a fountain in the blood of Jesus Christ that can clean the stain. And in the cleansing, Christ brings us not just to a new testimony, thank God for a new testimony, but to a new level of rest. And so here this evening, God is not beating you over the head with this. He just says, if your heart's uneasy with a divided nature, if your heart's uneasy with self-absorption or inner corruption, I've got the cure. I've got the credentials to take care of this, and I'd love to do it for you. I don't even want piano music. I want us to just stand together. And I would like to simply say, this is the offer of God to you, just as Christ would say to a sinner, come unto me and rest. Christ says to the believer, come unto me and rest. Anyone at all this evening that you would like to just kneel here and say, Jesus, I want rest from this. I want rest from something that just is plain. It's just uneasy in there. It's like an unruly servant. And Jesus, I just want rest. I'm here to surrender to you, to whatever you want for my life, and I need rest. You're not here to seek some experience. You're actually here to seek the sanctifier, the one who gives that rest, who brings the cleansing. Thank God. I am so grateful for the privilege of living at rest, just living in the place where our heart is not living uneasy forever. Thank God. Anyone else? This is just our privilege as children of God to come up to our heavenly Dad's throne and say, I need rest. I just need rest. Amen. Anyone else? If you need to, just while we come in to pray together, you just come on in and pray. You just do it. Just do it. Let's come in and pray together with these that have come to kneel. And you didn't have courage to come alone. Well, just come on in now and we'll pray together, because God has a fountain. There's a fountain open, full of blood for this need, and deeper than the stain is gone, that blood can go this evening. Praise God.
sake, let's pray. Amen. Dismiss. God bless you.